So now that it's finally September, fall has started, there's a lot of internships that have either started very recently or are about to start. And I know that when I was a software engineering intern, there was a lot of mistakes that I made. I was afraid to ask questions. I didn't know how to prioritize any tasks. I didn't really have a strategy. And there's a lot of lessons that I know now that I wish someone had told me back when I was an intern that I want to share with you all today, so that if you're starting an internship for the first time, or if you're just starting a software engineering internship in general, I think I have a bit of advice that I could give to you all to succeed. Considering that I did 2 years of internships while I was in school, I did an internship in Silicon Valley as well. And near the end of my degree, I was able to perform a lot better. I was able to work on more complex tasks. But earlier on, for sure, I had no idea what I'm doing. And so what I want to talk about today are a couple of different things, right? So what we're going to cover in today's video are how to prioritize tasks, how to ask the right questions, how to build trust with the rest of the team that you're working with, and how to actually follow through on a task so that, you go from start to finish and you don't end up giving up and hopping from task to task. You can actually complete what you started, right? So the first thing I want to start off with is how to prioritize tasks, right? This is something that I really didn't start doing until I had graduated and was working full time. I would basically start every single day. I kind of had an idea. I would look at like the, issues tracking board, whatever you were using, Jira or Trello, whatever it is. I would look at the board, see that I have a couple of tasks, and then just pick one and start working on it, right? These days, what I'm doing is I write down every day what tasks I have to do, and then I prioritize them based on, how important they are, based on what I've completed before. So if there's a task that I had that is gone now, I can reprioritize my list. This serves a couple of purposes, right? First of all, every day I know what I have to do. I don't have to remember it. Oftentimes, if I get a task to do and then I try to remember and I say, okay, I'm going to do it later, what ends up happening is that I completely forget to do the task, right? And then it never gets complete, and then, I just don't perform as well. But if you write everything down, you let your brain, work on other things. You don't have to use your brain power to remember. Just write everything down and that's it. You can use your brain for something else. And as you complete tasks, it is really a good feeling when you mark one thing complete and then you mark another thing complete. Even just marking the first thing to start off your day could be a very good feeling, and it gets the ball rolling for the rest of the day, right? If you start off your day within the first 30 minutes, you knock off some simple task, and then, you're kind of on track. It feels good, you're on a roll, and you can keep that momentum going. What I've realized is that since I've started implementing this into my life, I've been a lot more productive. I've actually completed a lot more tasks, and, I end up not forgetting about anything so that everything actually gets completed. When I was an intern, what I was doing was just, taking things one by one. I didn't really have a plan as to how I was going to approach the day, what I was actually going to work on. And then what ended up happening is things would happen, like I would work on something for too long and then other things wouldn't get complete. I would forget about things like I mentioned before. And basically what I want to emphasize to you guys is that you need to have some sort of strategy if you want to succeed during your software engineering internship. If you're getting a lot of tasks, you don't know what to work on first, the odds are you're going to be hopping from one thing to another. You're not going to complete everything, and just your performance isn't going to be as good as it could be if you were prioritizing all of your tasks. The second thing I want to talk about is asking questions. There's a pretty simple framework that you can follow when you have to ask questions to a team, to any kind of member of your team, right? What is 100% going to happen is you get one of your tasks, you have no idea how to do it, you try something, and then you still don't know what you're doing, you're kind of stuck, you're afraid to ask a question, and what ends up happening is like 3-4 hours go by, you've made no progress, and you're kind of in an awkward position, right? You don't want to ask for help because it's been 3 or 4 hours and they're going to say, oh, what, you're still on the first step of this task. But at the same time, you need to ask for help or else you're not going to progress. So to avoid being caught in this awkward zone, what you want to do is basically, first of all, you have to realize that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Everyone says that, but it's really true. Especially when you're an intern, there's like zero expectations of you. The expectation is that you're going to have to be helped along the way. And at least in the beginning, your hand is going to be held. You're going to be walked through everything. And so, especially as an intern, realize that there's no stupid questions. But that being said, don't just ask questions blankly without trying something else or without having any idea of a solution, right? The correct framework, if you're going to ask questions to, a more senior developer, should be something along the lines of, spend 15-20 minutes trying something out. If that doesn't work out and you have ideas for other solutions, try those other solutions out as well. If that still doesn't work, then if you do have an idea of a solution but you don't know how to implement that, write that down as well. But otherwise, go and ask a question to a more senior developer. And before asking a question, make sure you've written down or you have documented somewhere what you've tried to resolve the issue and then what other possible solutions you can come up with. Don't just go blankly and ask a question like, hey, how do I do this? Without having tried anything and just expecting them to complete it for you. That's not how it should go, and that doesn't really, align with the other principles that we're talking about today, which are like building trust with your teammates as well. If you're just asking questions, you haven't tried anything and you're asking for help, that's really not what's expected of you. It's expected that you at least try a couple of things before you go and ask for help. So follow this kind of framework. Try something. If you tried it and it failed and you have no other idea what to do, then go and ask for help. If you do have an idea of something else to do, then try it out. And keep recycling that until you're completely out of ideas and you're completely out of solutions. And then when you do ask for questions, bring with you what you've tried and what other possible solutions there are. Don't just come empty-handed, because even if it's a senior developer, they need context. They were going to want to know what you've tried, because they're probably going to want to try the same thing. And so it just helps out overall if you come with what you've done before. Finally, once you get a response to your question, make sure you write it down so you're not asking the same question again. The worst thing you could do is ask the same question every day, day in, day out. You're asking the same question, you're never learning, and it's just a complete waste of time. If you document the responses that you get, then not only are you not going to have to ask questions again, but if you make it public, if you share it with your team, other new team members, other interns, or even, just anyone won't have to ask those same questions because you'll already have it documented. So not only does it help your productivity, it helps your entire team's productivity too. The third thing I want to talk about is building trust with your team. So I work at Amazon right now. One of the biggest things here is that you want to build trust with your team. You want your team to be able to assign you tasks with full confidence and trust that you're going to actually complete that, right? This doesn't happen overnight. This doesn't even happen over like the course of a month. It takes a long time to build trust with your team, but there's a couple of pitfalls that you want to avoid so that you can build trust faster, right? So don't ever hide anything. If you're ever running into an issue, you want to ask questions as soon as possible. You want to bring it up as soon as possible, and you just want to make everything clear and transparent so that everyone knows what's going on at every step of the way. If your teammates know what's going on with you, then odds are they'll be able to help you. And in the reverse situation, if something is going wrong with your teammates and then for some reason you have to hop onto that task to help them, if you already know what's going on, it'll be a lot easier to context switch rather than if you're just entering it blind and then you have to ramp up. It'll take you a lot longer to solve the problem and to be able to help. So you want to be able to share as much information as you can with your team and constantly keep them updated. Now, if you're just starting off in your job or your internship, obviously you're going to want to start off with smaller tasks. You're going to want to show your team that you're able to complete all these small tasks so that you can slowly build up and work on more and more complex tasks. But building trust starts with the smallest tasks, and then over time you build up to more complex ones. But the whole time, if you're completing everything, if you're doing everything on time, you're doing everything correctly, then you should have no problem building trust with your teammates. So just overall, I want to tell you guys that you want your team to be able to trust you as much as you trust your team as well. Just because you're an intern, don't let it play down your responsibilities. Even though the stakes are lower and you probably don't have a chance of getting fired or anything, you still want to make a decent impact at the job. You want to succeed. You want to get the final offer, right? You want to get a full-time offer. You want to make good money. Don't slack off. Make everything clear and transparent with your team, and you want them to trust you. And finally, the final thing I want to talk about, and this is something that I struggled with probably the most during my internships, is you want to follow through on a task. Myself personally, when I was starting off in university and I was starting off with some internships and getting some tasks, whenever the tasks would get really big, I would kind of get overwhelmed and I wouldn't be able to complete them. A couple of times it happened where I would need help from a more senior engineer and then they would just take it over and complete them. This is really not what you want to happen. You have to understand that even if a task is very frustrating, the odds are there's probably a solution, and if you just keep trying solutions, you're going to get there eventually. The hardest thing to do is to not give up, and it can be so easy to, go from one thing to another, but there's a couple of things that you have to keep in mind to make sure that, you can actually complete these tasks. So first of all, you have to understand that it is possible and there is a solution. Second of all, you have to not be afraid to ask questions. So it goes back to what we were talking about before. You don't want to wait too long to ask questions. If it's been an hour and you're still blocked, ask a question. Odds are you'll be able to hop on a call with one of your engineers, or if they're sitting with you, you guys can just chat, go through it together, and then you can unblock yourself and move on. Don't wait too long to ask questions. You also have to have the knowledge to know where to look for answers, right? So the default ones, Stack Overflow, go on Google, search up anything that you're going through, and then probably there's going to be a thread on Stack Overflow or on GitHub or something where people have gone through the same problems, and then you're going to be able to solve your problem that way. But the odds are your company or that you're working at, that you're doing an internship at, probably has some internal, resource for documentation, like a search or something, a forum, a Stack Overflow kind of thing maybe. Whatever it may be, one of the first things you want to be able to do is know where that information is and know where to look for whenever you're stuck, because you are going to get stuck. And if you know where these resources are, you can just go to those resources, get the solution you need, and then implement it. And that kind of helps build trust as well, because you know where to look to find solutions. That's a very important skill as a software engineer. Following a task from start to finish is one of the best feelings, I think. When you're done, it builds your confidence, and you do genuinely get better at coding when you do something from the beginning to the very end. So I wouldn't shy away from tackling a complex problem, a complex task, and working on it from start to finish. It can be very frustrating, but trust me, it is super worth it. And it's definitely one of the things I struggled with when I was an intern. So guys, let's recap, right? You want to be able to prioritize your tasks. You want to be able to ask questions efficiently, follow the framework that we talked about before. You want to be able to build trust. You want your team to trust you as much as you trust them. And then you want to actually follow through on your task and see them to completion, right? So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you find the information that I've shared with you valuable. And if you have, I would greatly appreciate a like on the video. Leave a comment down below as well if there's anything you agree or disagree with. And as always, if you all would subscribe to the channel, that would absolutely make my day. And thank you very much if you do that. So as always, guys, have a good day and enjoy your coding.